Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bitcoin Live. Today with me in the show is our good friend Paul McNeal. Hi, Paul.
Hey, how's it going, Nick?
It's going very well. But before we dive into this very engaging and fun conversation that we're going to have, I have to thank our sponsors and our partnerships. We are very close with The Organized Media. So shout out to The Organized Media, who run tons of show on Bitcoin Live or, basically on their own platform. And shout out to Quantum Economics, of course, and Quantum Expeditions, and our friends at Shield Folio. And if you want a 20% discount on a Shield Folio, which is a little book where you can put on all your seed phrases and passwords, and it has like stone paper, so it cannot tear, and it's water resistant, you can get 20% off with the code of Bitcoin Live 20, or just scan the QR code and go straight to the shop. And with that out of the way, we're back and we're going to do something really fun. First of all, you haven't been on in ages. I don't even know how long. And of course, you have been out of crypto and Bitcoin and leading a very healthy and smart life. So we're going to talk about all that stuff, but we're having a fun time because we're going to do like two interviews. We decided like I'm going to interview you and you're going to interview me. And that's basically the show. And you decided to start, so the floor is all yours.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Nick, we're excited to have you on the show. It has been a while. It's been a long time. Of course, I keep watch on you guys' show, and I watch some of the different episodes, and always good to see Maddie Satz and the Oracle, Gerald Vata. I always make sure I got to watch their show because it's always fun. Missy and John, I know he's around somewhere. Hopefully, he'll come back around at some point too. But yeah, there's been a lot of things going on in the world, to say the least. And here in America, it's just been a complete, yeah. But I would like to start there a little bit and just get your broad views on just the world in general, globally, not just U.S. but globally. What do you think is going on right now?
Wow, that's a really big question.
It is a big question. I wanted to leave it broad. That way we can go down a rabbit hole at some point.
Yeah, what's not going on, like it's Bitcoin and crypto is a circus, like I said, but the world itself has also turned into a giant circus with so much going on. And I think you sort of know a little bit about my sort of bigger picture view. I think sort of the whole debt build up within the system that has been going on for decades now, probably multiple decades, but it escalated in 2007, 2008, and that train, like Lynn Alden always says, it has become unstoppable, and at some point it's going off the rails, and we're getting at that point where the train is sort of having real difficulty staying on the rails, and that's leading to all kinds of escalations all over the world between different power blocks and different countries. The blame game has already started, and those blame games, both internally and externally, right? Because you're also starting to point the finger within countries at each other, like who's guilty and who should suffer and who should sacrifice what to save what, right? All these kind of discussions, but also internationally, between the producing countries, the BRICS, and the consuming or the service countries, America and the Western Alliance, and the countries that have always been at the bottom, right? For those countries, actually, a very interesting time, because the way I look at it is that they can benefit extremely well from all this chaos that's coming, right? Countries in Africa, if they're smart, and sometimes you hear rumors that they're sort of taking serious steps in the right direction, but they keep being rumors at the moment. But for example, a country like Bhutan in Southeastern Asia, they accumulated gigantic amounts of Bitcoin, so they will be a powerhouse. And they actually don't do GDP, but a happiness index, which
Mhm.
is pretty smart anyway. and they've been investing a lot of the profits from crypto into public services and other healthcare and all those kind of things, which is also very smart. But also El Salvador, of course, and surprisingly Ukraine. One of my theses about Ukraine is actually that it will be the powerhouse of Europe. I'm not very happy about it, but since Germany sold all its Bitcoin, I think under pressure from outside, that leaves only the UK and Ukraine basically in Europe being Bitcoin powerhouses. And I think that will be. I think that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons that they're fighting in that area, because I think the old system, as it was going, was sort of putting all its eggs in one basket in Ukraine, and now that basket is in danger of getting lost, and I think they want to sort of continue to safeguard that basket and not lose it. So I think that's one of the many reasons that they're fighting over there. And then of course America is turning into Fortress America, and and Trump is of course the circus leader. And kicking over every apple cart he can find, and then some. And he appointed a lot of interesting people at interesting spots in the administration, and they are going at breakneck speed, transforming America, hopefully for the better. My opinion about Trump is, of course, as you know, double-sided, right? I think he's a very unpredictable figure. He has good sides, but also, dangerous and unpredictable sides. He does good things, but also, dubious things. I think some of the things that he's doing, that he's getting blamed for, is stuff that he has to do, even if it was, somebody else, they would have to do similar things. For example, focusing on the bond market in order to, do something with the maturing debt later this year, right? I mean, that's the thing. So, I'm not surprised that he gives something with one hand to the stock market and then take it away with the other hand. So yeah, well, that I guess I leave it there.
Yeah. Well, that gives us a lot of different areas to cover. So one of the things I guess I'll ask you, since you did, and this is of course Bitcoin Live, looking at the globe, all countries, and looking at their view on Bitcoin. Of course, we know that this most recent administration decided to create the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, and we know that El Salvador also is real big on Bitcoin, and of course the things that they're doing on Bitcoin. Where do you see other countries? Who do you think will ultimately be next to make a decision when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, I hope it's Russia, but I don't think it's Russia. I think it will be a Middle Eastern country, most likely. Yeah.
Wow.
So and I think Gerald, I'm not sure. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he's thinking along similar lines. And of course, you saw the Gulf states front running the Bitcoin reserve, right? I think it was Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure. I think it was Abu Dhabi who sort of bought a lot of Bitcoin. But Saudi Arabia, Iran, there's a lot of interest in that region. Turkey was for a very long time. It was sort of its population was very pro Bitcoin. Like they had huge amounts of Bitcoin in the population. So within Middle Eastern countries, there's a lot of interest in Bitcoin and crypto. And I think Safedin Ammous even did like Sharia compliant episode about Bitcoin, like why it's not interest and why it's allowed within Islam, like why it's haram. Halal, sorry. Halal, not haram.
Right.
So yeah, I think it would be a Middle Eastern country.
If it was a Middle Eastern country, do you have one that you think is a front runner, and why would that be?
Yeah, I think it would be one of the Gulf states, right? I think they are already setting themselves up for being like a crypto Walhalla. Again, Abu Dhabi is like one of, but also Qatar, right? And all those Gulf states are, very much into financialization and, positioning themselves in the crypto revolution. And so it makes perfect sense for them to get into Bitcoin and crypto and starting a Bitcoin reserve, right? I think that makes perfect sense.
And do you think they would do that solely because the U.S. has done it, or do you think they would do it because they truly understand what Bitcoin is and therefore they're going to do it?
I think both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, both. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you and me can see the wind, right? Like the what way the wind is blowing, and I mean, only for people outside of crypto, it's unclear which way we are headed. But if you're inside of crypto, obviously, the strategic Bitcoin reserve will be, on par to a new Bretton Woods, right? It's like it's almost Bretton Woods 2.0 that they're creating. This will be a historic, momentous occasion, looking back that Trump established a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and they know this, and they know they have to be quick, and they are already starting accumulating, I'm sure. And many other countries probably have also secretly accumulated or mined it, and kept it. And of course, all the funds that they have retrieved from operations like I think they technically probably already have like a black budget strategic reserve, only not officially yet, to not to upset the apple cart. And then on top of that, right, they also understand it. I think the Gulf states and a lot of these Middle Eastern countries actually understand crypto. I have no doubt about it.
What about the Netherlands? Why not the Netherlands? I sent you an article that said that the Netherlands is the most excited place about crypto or something like that. It was shocking. I was like, what?
Yeah, I saw the article. I was actually surprised by it. Wait, maybe
So
I can
was
pull it up. I think let's see.
It's
But
in our
I'll pause
conversation.
while I'm trying to find.
No, but I guess that's one of the things that, of course, I'm here in America, and of course, it's all over the news and stuff like that. But when it comes to the Netherlands, is there a lot of activity around Bitcoin, or do you see people talking about it in the streets or in the stores or things like that? Is it a lot of?
Yeah, I would say the latter, right? So I think on a state level, or from the public sector, there's, I think, not very much interest. At least I don't see a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you do sometimes see, during matches or on advertisement, you see, for example, Bitfavo is a very big exchange, and Bitcoin Maester, that they do run ads. And people know about it, and they are sort of established, and they have been checked by the Dutch National Bank. All their reserves have been sort of audited, and there are strict rules within Holland about Bitcoin and crypto. And it's our equivalent of the IRS. They have run through all the issues surrounding Bitcoin and crypto, and I think, except for the taxes on it, they are pretty fair. But if you are like a low end player within crypto, you don't pay that much tax. It's above a certain level, it becomes a lot. But you pay a lot of taxes on everything in Holland. But apart from that, it's mostly the street level, like people on the street, regular people. There's a lot of interest, especially as these sort of cycles happen, those 4-year cycles, and Bitcoin picks up. Then people start speculating, and they come to you and say, "Oh, aren't you into crypto?" and then blah blah blah. And then but as the cycle ends and the bear market arrives, or if you have like a normal 20% correction in a bull market, everybody drops off, and they think it's over, and then they're gone.
Right, right. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that leads sort of to the next question is that Bitcoin's gone through multiple boom and bust cycles, right? We've seen this happen over and over again since 2008, 2009. Based on your analysis, where do you think we are in the current cycle and what key indicators are you sort of watching?
Yeah, I think this. I actually put up this one. I really like this one actually.
Hmm.
We also run on Facebook, and I do the writing and stuff over there.
Okay.
And yeah, I think you can see it right.
Yeah.
Underneath is Baruch. He's like the famous investor, and he says, "Show me the charts, and I'll tell you the news." That's
Hmm. Hmm.
Vibo Swanee, and every
Fibo. Yeah.
technical analyst would tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, ignore the news, like just watch the chart. And
Yeah.
above is the chart. I think that was from 2017.
Yeah.
Um, and there you see, like, in every bull market you have like 38, 29. Actually, we've had like a pretty mild correction. Like,
Hmm.
it's not nothing like this any. So so this is normal, right? This is
Right.
perfectly normal. And I think, of course, you go through these cycles, and this year is
Hmm.
crazy, right? Because of
Hmm.
Trump and the tariffs and the geopolitical tensions, and and the war, and there's so much going on. So I do understand that people panic, and a recession has been predicted for how long? you know, at some point.
A
Yeah,
long time. I get a good friend of mine that was on X, Sam, not Samson. I'm gonna forget his name. Anyway, he used to tell me back in 2018. He used to use hashtag recession 2018. Here we are in
yeah, yeah,
2024, and there's
yeah.
still no recession, right?
Yeah, well, my opinion, I think the recession has two elements. Like, the first element is, I think it has already started and has happened for a very long time. The banking crisis, and basically they're restructuring the world economy under our noses,
Mm,
while distracting us with nonsense.
mhm.
And everybody's getting poorer, right? So something is happening. Uh,
You say that, but this is what I tell people though, is that yeah, listen, if we are in a recession or if times are hard, times are bad or whatever, people are still going to fast food restaurants eating. They're still out there at restaurants. You go to some restaurants, you have to wait an hour and a half, 2 hours to get in. The malls are still packed. The movie theater, people are still buying cars. I mean, it's almost as if money really doesn't matter because and the prices are ridiculous no matter where you go. I mean, there's a burger joint here, Five Guys. You can't get out of there with a burger, fry, and drink for under like $20. I mean, it's insanity how much money people spend every day. Now, some people say, well, that's because everybody's living in debt and the credit card debt's the highest we've ever seen and blah, blah, blah. So at some point, yes, I guess the shoe would drop, but it's just irresponsibility all across the board from the individual to governments. It's all irresponsible.
Yeah, amen. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. No,
Yeah. It's
absolutely
nuts.
right. No, but I do agree. Like, also with the first part, like, everybody is sort of living on off credit and lending, and at some point that shoe has to drop. But I also think for example, with shrinkflation has
Mhm.
many forms and many guises, and I think the sort of the materials that they're starting to use in food, but also in other products, it's become less and less, and we are also becoming more and more dependent on, for example, foreign adversaries. That's one of the reasons, of course, that Trump also wants to stop the war in Ukraine, because uh, it doesn't take very long before all the weapons are being produced in China that America is using to fight Russia and Ukraine, right?
Mm.
So you can't keep this going unless you sort of get the production base back into America,
Right.
uh, or in Europe, right? Europe is in
Mhm.
way worse shape than America is in this regard. But anyway, but yeah, at some point the shoe has to drop, and I think, and that's also why Trump is doing what he's doing. He's trying to sort of rearrange and restructure America in a way to make it resilient and self-sustainable, and also shift the focus from. I think he's still more an isolationist president, than an expansionist president. And I think his focus, and I think that's also why Elon Musk is on board, will be on space, right? Don't forget, in the first administration, he established the Space Force, was under his administration. And I think in this administration, the focus on space will be that much more. And I think if America is going to expand anywhere, it will be in space, which is the logical place to be.
Well, it's interesting because I'm not sure you remember Ray Dalio's The Changing World Order video. If you haven't seen that, it's phenomenal. So given what he says in the video, and if there is a changing world order, and again, it's so funny because it seems like all of a sudden the whole conversation about the Great Reset has disappeared. I don't hear anybody talking about the Great Reset anymore. But I guess I haven't been watching you enough, but it just seems like, well, of course, I've pulled myself out of the echo chamber, so I don't hear about this stuff anymore. But hey, good morning there, Marty. The thing is that if there becomes a Great Reset, who's the next country to lead? Because obviously it won't be the U.S. Or do you think the U.S. is going to continue to maintain its dominance and keep its leadership status as the world order leader?
I think a bit. I think the latter is the case, but it will be a different kind of order, right? It will be a multipolar order. I mean, deglobalization has set in, with the start of the Ukraine war. I think COVID was peak globalization. I think the World Economic Forum was at its peak or most powerful during COVID. And then for some reason there was in my opinion, a fallout between the parties, because at that point everybody was on board. China was on board, Russia was on board, Europe was on board, America was. Everybody was doing the COVID thing, even though America took a while for America to get the memo, because Trump at first was sort of anti, and then he switched. I think he got the memo like, this is like the program, get with the program. And then there was a fallout at that highest level between the countries. And I think the reason that they fell out was because China and Russia started to understand, where this game ends. Like, it's like you're playing Monopoly with somebody who's cheating and he's holding all the cards, and that's America. And with the CBDC system, if you're crazy enough to go onto a global CBDC system, that's like a fiat standard times a million, like infinitely worse than a fiat dollar system.
Do you think Bitcoin is going to be the driving factor that keeps America as the global leader, with their stance on adopting Bitcoin as a strategic reserve? You think that's gonna? Do you think it'll get us out of debt?
Yeah. I think, and I remember we did. I think, what is it? 2 years ago, we did some episodes on CBDCs. Yeah, and I remember. I think that was the last one with Style Pigeon that we did. And then I mentioned in that one, I thought, like, I think America will go on the Bitcoin standard or something like it, and then Europe will go on the CBDC system. Yeah, and the rest of the world will also go on CBDCs mostly. And
well, it'll be interesting to see if we actually do a Bitcoin standard, though.
Now, it's not a Bitcoin standard, right? So it's and that's the one thing that I do worry about, because if you only use Bitcoin as collateral and then launch a CBDC on top of it, then you get that's very dangerous, because then you can get the worst of both worlds, right? Because then you can print CBDCs, fiat CBDCs or stable coins or whatever, and then that will create inflation in Bitcoin. And then, because Bitcoin is the collateral of the system, rinse, repeat.
Right. Yeah. Well, what I find interesting has been happening, and I think many years ago on your show, we've talked about this principle, or this process, is that we're seeing stable coins become the discussion now in Congress. It's all about stable coin. Again, George puts together the legislation on Capitol Hill crypto. He's been tracking a lot of this, but when you look at the news now and the conversation on Capitol Hill, it's a lot about the Stablecoin Act, right? And everything's about stablecoin, no CBDC, but stablecoins. And I've said this a long time ago that a stablecoin is going to become the medium of exchange in which we use instead of the dollar, right? And so at some point, I think we're going to see a USDC or USDT or some form of a stablecoin take that role.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I fully agreed with you back then, and I still fully agree now.
Yeah.
And of course, many people can be also blocked and blacklisted with stablecoins, right? A stablecoin is very close or almost identical to a CBDC if you want it to be, right? So, and stablecoins are in a huge demand and used all over the globe, also in African countries. And so and for America, it's very profitable, right? Because I think Tether is holding a huge amounts of U.S. treasuries, right? So actually, it reinforces the use of the dollar all over the globe.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because again, I haven't paid close enough attention. Maybe you have been paying more attention than I have. But didn't Binance delist Tether? I think I saw something where they were taking Tether off of Binance as a stablecoin, which would be massively crazy if that was the case. At least that's what I thought I read. I'm not sure. Somebody can correct me on that. But I thought Binance.
They haven't. I can't imagine. I can't remember also that. Yeah, maybe I missed it. But what did happen is like within Europe, Binance has been blocked and in many European countries, if not all European countries. And I think it, and also at first, of course, in America, I think it has now started operating again. They did.
Binance has announced plans to delist Tether and other non-compliant stablecoins for users in the European Economic Area.
In the
European Union's market of crypto assets, the MiCA regulations. This delisting will take effect on March 31st, 2025. They're delisting them.
Okay. But in European markets, so I now understand. I didn't know this, by the way. But that's very interesting. So that was probably why Europe blacklisted Binance at first because of Tether. And now they're allowing Binance to come back into Europe, but they have to delist Tether. On Europe. Okay, that's interesting.
I wonder what shift that's going to have. And again, it's interesting to see how in the early days, and I'm sure you remember in the early days, Wild West crypto, everybody anarchist, blah, blah, and was acting like, policy was never going to take hold. But now it seems like crypto's fallen in line with all the regulations everywhere, on whether it's US or whether it's globally, everyone's putting in. So it's like they're slowly, crunching this crypto thing, taming it, so to speak, and not making it the Wild West anymore, making everybody comply. So eventually we're going to find ourselves in the same system we are now with regular dollars and euros and whatever.
No, that's the big question, right? That's the $1 million question. If who will win out? Will Bitcoin win out eventually, like the anarchic spirit of Bitcoin, right? The question is, can you tame Bitcoin? That's the question.
Yeah, that's it.
And I don't think you can. I think they will gonna try, and they're doing their best, and they're doing a great job, right? It also has to do with decentralization, how decentralized is Bitcoin, and then people from the XRP army will say it's not decentralized because BlackRock is holding all the cards and Vanguard, and they're all one cabal, and the mining operations are all centralized, and but they're also sort of in contradiction with themselves, because then they say, no, it's all in China, and then but it was in was it America or is it China? Like which is it? It can't be both, and so I think the nature of Bitcoin. Because in essence, it's a pretty simple protocol, right? It doesn't have a lot of lines of code. It's very transparent, and I don't believe, I'm not a programmer, but I've talked to so many people by now. I don't believe there's a backdoor, and even if the NSA created it, right? I think they created it, if they did, in order to create a trustless, decentralized system that can run on its own account, right? I think that if they needed to create something because they knew we would end up where we are now, where all trust in the system is sacrificed, and is basically you basically need a trustless, decentralized system in order to reboot the system, right? Because nobody's going to use each other's CBDC, right? Nobody's going to do that, unless they're Yeah,
No,
go.
unless they're what?
Unless they're totally misinformed, or
Yeah.
because the U.S. military is breathing down their neck, right? That's the only two reasons why you would run a CBDC of somebody else.
So what got you into Bitcoin? I don't think I ever really understood how you found it, how you got into it, why you're still dealing with it, the whole nine yards.
Well, I was a gold bug like long time ago in 2007, 2008.
Oh,
I actually,
okay.
did an article, Dutch article. I'm still trying to ask them to, if I'm allowed to translate it and to, spread it, but it's in Dutch.
Yeah.
And in that article, I sort of explain how I got started in Bitcoin and crypto. I also mentioned quantum economics and Matty and you, and so it's a lot of fun. But it started in 2007, 2008. Before that, I was a philosopher. Like, I studied philosophy and cultural anthropology is my background. And
Huh.
yeah, that's actually, and I was pretty left leaning. Not, I think before my 30s, I was pretty left leaning actually. I read Gramsci and even some works of Lenin and some Marxist philosophers, Althusser, but also a lot of right leaning. So it's not only left leaning. But after 2008, when the financial crisis happened,
Yeah.
then I wanted to know what happened, right? So because it became more and more obvious that finance was pretty important, and back then you got a lot of great free editorials, like Zero Hedge started back then, and you got the Contra Corner from David Stockman, and you got a lot of these really great educational content on finance, right? And suddenly, when you started reading that because you wanted to know what happened, you had sort of like an interest in sort of getting a handle on it, you got these free publications that made it understandable, right? Because I always thought that economics was like econometrics, like, very complex formulas and absolutely boring, and accounting, and then suddenly it became understandable because the basics of economics are super simple, right?
Hmm.
Only it gets very complex as you sort of go higher on the chain, right? As the financialization keeps increasing, it gets more and more complex. But at the center or at the basic level, it's basically everything is supply and demand. Um, and then you get to know how bonds work, and how all these sort of intricate mechanisms work. And then it also
Hmm.
becomes fun because then you can sort of understand the plumbing. And then you start listening to Lynn Alden and or George Gammon. George Gammon did a great job at educating the public and educating himself while educating the public. So yeah, and that made it fun. That made economics fun. And then I started as a gold bug because it was sort of understandable. Also Jim Rickards, of course. I read all his books. That you needed like a sound basis to reboot the system, and that the reboot of the system happens every 150 years. You need a reboot. But then Bitcoin and crypto came by, and at first I ignored it. And then in 2017, me and my brother Jan started talking about it. Like, it became bigger in the news, also because of the hype. And then last week came in pretty late to the party. The first, I think it was, what is it, end of 2017, or was it 2018?
So probably
End of
2018.
2017, right? Or-
So the big run up was 17, 18. Yeah.
yeah. So we sort of got into the end of that run, and then
Yeah.
and then
17
made
at the
all
end of
the
17.
mistakes that you can make, like
Yes.
buy high, sell
Yes.
low, wait until nothing is left of your portfolio, and get into all the crap coins, and you know,
Yeah.
make every mistake you can make, and yeah, that's you're learning money.
And so if someone were to ask you, has Bitcoin materially changed your life in some shape, form, or fashion? I'm assuming that would be yes, but how would you articulate that? How do you explain to someone what Bitcoin has done for you?
I think your time preference changes a lot,
Hmm.
right? I think Dan Ariely is one of those economists, behavioral economists, right? Be like Taylor, and you got Daniel Kahneman, but Dan O'Reilly is also a very famous behavioral economist, and he sort of explained that saving, getting people to save money, the way to do that is to visualize the savings.
Mm-hmm.
And then as people get like a visual representation of their savings and see them increase, then it becomes fun to start saving, and it becomes, and people, sort of that changes your behavior. And Bitcoin is like the ultimate form of that, right? Because as you sort of go into Bitcoin and you see sort of those ramp ups, you, of course, it becomes fun to put in more and more money in order to see it increase. And then, of course, you also get punished if you make a mistake, like, if you sell too soon or too late, or, et cetera, et cetera. But that also then reinforces you to start learning more about it, because it has done it before. And as you learn more and more, you want to, invest more and more. And basically, it teaches you about finance. It teaches you about the monetary system. It teaches you about technology. It teaches you about human behavior. It also touches a lot of social and philosophical questions. So that was also a benefit. So it changes your complete worldview, but also your behavior, and it makes saving fun, and also makes you richer, right? I mean, I am richer because of Bitcoin and crypto, despite all my mistakes, and all the giveaways that we did at first. Like, the first 2 years, we gave away gigantic amounts of crypto. We made a lot of friends, but if we didn't do all those giveaways, then I would be gone at my work where I work now, right? I would have been already,
No, it is interesting because, again, like I said, when people that are outside of Bitcoin are talking to Bitcoiners, I think it's so easy to get caught up in number go up, right? And so sometimes it's hard to articulate to them the true meaning of Bitcoin other than number go up. And so, like you mentioned all the time, preference and things like that, and it's changing your worldview and how you see the world and making you a better person and everything like that. That's one of the things that I wonder, though, is that when you look at Bitcoiners, are Bitcoiners really nice people, or are Bitcoiners complete jerks?
Well, that's funny. I actually had like a conversation with Vesa about this, like yesterday. We had a call, and I of course I do love Bitcoiners, right? I like the focus on self sufficiency, self reliance, being a responsible individual, like individualism instead of collectivism. All those kind of things are really good. And I think the people in Bitcoin that I've met, people like yourself, but also like Fibo and Matty, and all the people that are in our community, they are wonderful people, and they are very helpful, and they are they support each other. So I love that, and that's really good. And they're building the future of humanity, so that's also very positive. But we do have an image problem because to people on the outside, like, first of all, they don't care about any of that. Secondly, they only see money, women, champagne, fast cars, and deranged degenerates, either winning a lottery ticket in their eyes, or losing everything, or winning and then losing everything. So and basically like a circus, which is also fun, right? I mean, it makes it also fun. Very colorful people like McAfee, and all those people.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, but from the outside looking in, it looks like these people are crazy, dangerous, selfish, unforgiving, only focused on money, number go up, material things, and Trump supporters, which is of course the worst thing in the world. And so we do have like a serious image problem. right?
Right.
And we do need to work on that. And
Yeah, because I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you're a Bitcoiner, my encouragement would be to do good in the world, right?
yeah,
It's important that this is the hardest asset we've ever seen. It truly has the potential to save the world from financial ruin. And so we should layer on top of that strength the ability to be good to people. I'm not saying we got to please people. Of course, that's not the goal, but we do want to be good people and good to other people and help people out where we can, things of that nature, versus just being rude and just ugly to people because they don't quote unquote get it,
yeah.
and just being nasty. It makes no sense. I don't understand why some Bitcoiners are that way, and they're very demeaning to people. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I think that is like a subset of the Bitcoin group that is usually also the most vocal.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're right, and I do think the importance. I think one of the things that I think there's also a lot of charity with Bitcoin and crypto, because charity
Hmm.
becomes
Hmm.
very easy with Bitcoin and
Yes.
crypto. A lot of money went to Ukraine, for example.
Hmm.
Of course, there's also a lot of money laundering going on there, so it's not only charity.
That's right. That's right.
But a lot of charity is given through Bitcoin and crypto, and I
Yeah.
think we should focus also more on that. And I
Yep.
think you got, for example, Isabella, who's doing work
Hmm.
in I think it's in El Salvador.
Hmm.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's in El Salvador. And she's creating those schools there and a gym, and she's helping the locals to sort of get Bitcoin and
Uh,
the local communities and creating this sort of self-sustained economy, right? Because that is what
mhm.
Bitcoin is all about, a circular economy that you can create. And I think the
Yep.
Bitcoin community should set up lots of those kind of projects and focus on them and show how it improves people's lives on a local level and create those local communities, because we also actually need those local communities in order to survive. Because if we don't set up those local communities and those circular economies, you are trapped into this sort of vicious stablecoin fiat CBDC system that will that will also grow
Yep.
alongside Bitcoin. And I do think the benefit of Trump
Hmm.
is that he's not a globalist, right? So he will do it on a local level. Like he will benefit, he will try to profit from Bitcoin and crypto as much as he can. And I do think he does want to share the wealth, right, with other people, even though he
Hmm.
will, get more of the pie, of course, than Elon. But they are not against other people getting a slice of the growing pie, right? And they're not globalist, and that allows for Bitcoin to do its work, right? Because if you don't get a global clampdown on Bitcoin, and you give Bitcoin enough time, and different countries are going to do the similar things, but on a local level on their own country, then Bitcoin has enough room to eventually flourish and do its thing, and then drain the entire system of not
Do,
entire system, but a large part of the system from corruption and malfeasance and waste.
do you think aliens use Bitcoin?
Oh, that's a show we haven't done yet with the bigger picture. We've been building up to that show, Sid and me. But yeah, we wanted to do one on galactic money systems, and like I said, I think Trump 2.0 is not only about the bond market, but it's also about the space economy, the space-based economy. That's why Elon is aboard also, and why you see the UAP push in America, right? I think that all of this is connected. That's why I wear a tinfoil hat, so it's all connected. But what I want to say is, like, a Bitcoin makes perfect sense for a space-based economy as a settlement layer.
Nice, nice. Okay.
Also between central banks, of course, who don't trust each other anymore in
Yep.
a
Yep.
deglobalized world. It
Yep.
makes perfect sense in that way, but it makes even more sense as seen from a space-based perspective, right? And
Right.
Jason Lowry wrote Soft War,
Mm-hmm.
And he's from the Space Force. And
Mm-hmm.
he also mentioned like expect to see more and more of this kind of stuff. And he also pointed out like people only focus on the monetary element of Bitcoin and the sort of that you can build a financial system on top of it. But what it is also, it's like the most secure network on planet Earth, right? It's the most secure network. That in itself is extremely valuable. And if you want to do settlements between planets and colonies, let's say on the moon or on Mars or in different places, you do need a settlement layer that you can trust, right? And that's decentralized and that can be audited and that works automatically and that you can mine on Mars and on the moon. And then of course, you got the delays and stuff, but it doesn't have to be fast, right? If you do the final settlements on Bitcoin, you can do CBDC system or another kind of system on top of it. So you're not gonna fly gold with rockets or paper money or fiat, right? Fiat is completely debased and degenerate. It showed itself its true colors.
So with only 21 million, and if we got 8 billion people on the planet, how is Bitcoin ever going to allow the aliens to use it too? I mean, listen, at some point there's going to become a problem. Do you think the Bitcoin network can handle that much demand?
Yeah, I think what we talked about, like you want a circular economy. I forgot the people. Safedin Ammous. There's the circle on the front of his book.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name of those people, but anyway, they use these big stones, right, on those islands, and those stones they don't even move, right? They are standing there, and they acknowledge each other's propriety, right? That they audit them and they stand around and say, okay, this stone is now yours, and this stone is yours, and so basically there's no increase in the amount of stones on that island until the Europeans came. But you can basically, so it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin there is because you can, cut them up in very small pieces and you can allocate them.
And what I think it's I forget how many Satoshis is in a Bitcoin. Is it 100 million? 100 million.
Yeah, 100 million. But I think you can even increase those. There was a way, to add another million, I think.
Yeah, because I think Mark Yesko says 21 quadrillion or something like that is what all the entire Bitcoin network is ultimately. But that's a lot. Speaking of which, though, if that's the case, and we know that there's 21 million, and we know that the equation is 21 million fixed supply plus massive demand equals number goes up. Why is the number going up? It seems like all the news is bullish. Everything's bullish. What's going on with Bitcoin? I have people always asking me, like, why is Bitcoin down? Why is Bitcoin down?
Well, I think it has to do with many things. I think, first of all, right, the players that are in Bitcoin right now, they're not retail, right? So retail is not moving the market. It's not even moving the needle, right? These are like gigantic financial institutions that are, actually they're not gigantic because the gigantic financial institutions haven't even gotten in yet. But they're compared to us, they're gigantic, and they're just playing the market, right? So, you saw the trading range with Bitcoin. I sometimes got tempted to trade because it's so regular, but I'm not a trader. But maybe I should. But anyway, those sort of movements that you see, like those are like highly professional traders that are just trading the range, but in such amounts that it's sort of mind-boggling for people like us. And so I don't see anything really extreme going on right now, except that, at the moment there's a risk, mostly a risk off scenario because of, the bond market that Trump is trying to, he's trying to get the 10-year lower in order to, surface the coming debt wall, and playing around with tariffs. Yeah, also to get the productivity to America, but also right to hammer down the stock market, right? It's less about the stock market this time. But I think at the same time, he's doing a lot to prop up crypto and Bitcoin despite hammering down the stock market, right? Because you can also turn it around. And I think he's doing a lot in order to support Bitcoin and crypto despite all the negative news, which is a lot.
So do you think the top is in for this cycle?
No, no, no way.
What
No
do you
way.
think the top is?
Well, I'm not a trader. I'm not a financial expert. I have to, this is not financial advice. And it will probably cost me a really nice bottle of whiskey. But I put out a bet and I'll stick to it. With a good
Ooh.
friend of mine, last year we sat down and he talked to me, and we talked about all these things, and then of course everything was different when the year started. But I bet a very good bottle of whiskey that Bitcoin will trade above 250K this year.
Oh wow! You got bitten by the Tim Draper bug. I see. Like Tim Draper call it 250. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like, Tim, let it go, bro. It's like he was wrong once, he was wrong twice, he's wrong again. It's like, Tim, let it go, man.
in my defense, like we started last year, end of last year, was very bullish, of course, going up, and then all the news with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, all that stuff. I believe that it would happen, and it happened, so that's positive.
Yeah.
The rails, what we talked about, stablecoin regulation is coming.
Yep.
Actually, I think what I personally think is going to happen, and which will get Bitcoin at that level, and that's my sort of pet theory, is, and I've also talked to another friend of mine about auditing the Fed. And my friend back then said, like, yeah, but they want to audit the Fed because the gold is not there, right? Because they haven't audited there. And I told him, like, oh, I think that the gold is there, right? Jim Rickards have been saying that for a long time too. So
actually, and not to cut you off, actually, I think it was Pomp on his show. He said he thinks not only is the gold there, he thinks that there's even more gold there than what they think is there, because we've confiscated and we've taken gold or whatever. And he thinks that there's more gold, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that could be the case, and I think there's a lot of things going on there, right? Because they also want to put it on the blockchain. They tokenizing gold, all that kind of stuff is also happening, and either the amount is too high or too low. But the point is, it will not add up to sort of the amount that they say it is, and that will be an excuse to say, like, oh, see, we cannot trust the system, it's not audited, and we need to put it on the blockchain. But then you can also make the case there's something better than gold, which is audited every 10 minutes, and that's Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin is now part of our reserves, right, officially, which is extremely bullish, right? Because it gives the green light to not only other countries, but also every financial institution and financial advisor to start, allocating towards it. But secondly, I think, and there have been already sort of articles coming out from, I saw this one from Decrypt, but I also saw other people talking about it, that I think it's very likely that they will start selling gold in phases, not everything in once, of course, but in phases. And if they do that, that will be extremely bullish for Bitcoin, right? It will be detrimental for gold and for central banks holding gold reserves, because that means it will dilute their reserves, which will force other central banks into Bitcoin, right, to follow suit. So not only will the selling of gold into Bitcoin by the Federal Reserve or the Treasury, I think it's the Treasury probably who's doing that, increase the Bitcoin value. So not only is the Bitcoin has to be revalued at current standard, but by doing that, the Bitcoin value will actually increase even further. And then forcing other central banks to follow suit will increase the value even further. So the gold by itself is almost sort of 1 trillion or 800 billion, something like that, or more if pump is right. But if you start putting that into Bitcoin, it will lower the price of gold, of course. That's then the downside. But it will, because Bitcoin is much smaller than gold, it will much increase the value of your reserves in Bitcoin, which will actually far exceed 1 trillion probably in reserves, right? Because America holds about 200,000 Bitcoin.
Correct. And somebody said something. I read something that said that part of that 200,000, I guess, belongs to Bitfinex, and eventually they will give that to Bitfinex or something like that.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I have to dive into that.
I don't know the background on that, but that's one of the things that I find interesting is that, again, I think part of it is that they are keeping it artificially suppressed, because why would they telegraph that they're going to buy Bitcoin and what they're going to force the price up so they can buy it higher? That doesn't make sense, right? And the same thing goes for Michael Saylor and everybody else. It's like, why is everyone forecasting that they're going to buy Bitcoin? Number go up, but numbers not going up. So.
Yeah, well, I think so. There's also a lot of manipulation in the market, right? So Johnny Law does a lot of work on that, like that you cannot really trust those numbers, and of course there's a lot of shenanigans going on with money printing and ETFs and all that kind of stuff. But I think what I just said, and I actually wrote it down here. I think not only what I said is like it will increase sort of the value of Bitcoin if you do that and force everybody else to follow suit, but it will also give the US a lead and upper hand in the transition towards a wholly new monetary and financial system. And I think, again, with the space-based economy, and also in connection with UAPs and all that kind of stuff, I do think our level of technology is much further advanced than people think. And I also wouldn't be surprised if there are some announcements around space and maybe also gold that will further sort of shift the focus from gold into Bitcoin.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you the question that if it was your decision, and again, fictitious, but if it was your decision, how would you fund a strategic Bitcoin reserve? How would you buy Bitcoin if it was totally your decision?
Yeah. So I've also been looking into that. Tom, first of all, I would start phasing out the gold and turn it into Bitcoin. I wouldn't completely erase gold, because it's smart to diversify and to keep something physical. But I would put maybe half of the gold into Bitcoin or more. And secondly, what Gerald also said in his latest video, another way to really increase in a budget neutral way your Bitcoin reserves, besides putting out bonds like El Salvador does, is of course mining Bitcoin, right? Turning energy into Bitcoin, which actually improves the energy grid and your security as you sort of move onto a Bitcoin standard. The more sort of energy you put into Bitcoin, and you control that energy that you put into Bitcoin, not only does the network becomes more secure, but you own that part of the security of the network, right? So, and it improves your energy grid and everything that goes along with it. So just mine Bitcoin, right? So that would be a budget neutral way that improves everything at the same time, and increases your reserves in a very nice way that nobody can sort of complain about. And I think, and then Tom Lee also made a really good point in an
good old Tom Lee.
Yeah, but that was, I think this one was really, I never thought about it, but so Tom Lee from Fundstrat, he said in a recent interview, I haven't watched the interview, but he said he compares the strategic Bitcoin reserve to the concept of the US petroleum reserve, noting that for every dollar used to purchase oil, over 400 is used to speculate in the market. And to put a point on it, with so much oil speculation, Lee says countries need oil reserves in order to control supply and not get whipsawed by volatility. So the Fundsred head of research says if oil speculation is worth 400 times its market value, BTC as a world reserve asset adopted by the masses would likely be traded much more and could be Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase's most profitable product. Because let's say Bitcoin becomes 10% of people's net worth and banks starts to use it to secure information, which, what we just talked about with, security network. Okay, well, anyway, that's not so rare. Well, that's really valuable, but then wouldn't the US want to be able, wait. But anyway, the point is a year. And if oil's traded 400 times, Bitcoin might be 1,000 times. It's going to be a usually tradable commodity. So basically you need additional, so you need like a big basis in order to, not be whipsawed by the speculation that comes on top of it. So that's I think a further reason for the increase in the price of Bitcoin once they start budget neutral acquisition of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's just interesting watching this thing play out. And of course, timing is the issue, right? Most people think that things are going to happen a lot sooner. I mean, it very well might be 2030, 2040, 2050 before we see really big things happening, because I think that it's a slow progression going that direction, right? And I think it takes more time than we envision for things to happen. I mean, Bitcoin is what now, 15 years old or how old is Bitcoin? 16? No.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, we're like we said at the beginning, like here, this whole sort of thing that is happening for decades now, like sort of the buildup of the financial system, right? And the second shoe has to drop, right? At some point, it's like a complex system, right? It starts gradual, but the last part of a complex system, when the phase transition happens very suddenly and very quick. And if you look at all the crazy stuff that is happening right now with Trump, and then people can blame Trump, but he's also just reacting to the system that he's been thrown into, right? And you can react to it differently, but he's reacting in the way he does. And you saw every year things become more and more crazy. Right. That's also what at the beginning of every year on January, I always tell people, just expect things to get more crazy. If you thought like last year was crazy, just expect more craziness, right? So, but what that is actually saying is that you're on this exponential curve, on this hockey stick, and that you're reaching the end of the hockey stick. And that's, you see it with AI, you see it with technology, you see it with Bitcoin. And so I think the last parts can go extremely much faster than people think, like because they are used to sort of what you call it, just saying like the last 50 years will be the same as the next 50 years, or the last year will be the same as the next year.
Would you do you think you'll ever own a robot?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I
hope they won't own me.
The robots, I think that's another one of those slow then all of a sudden, right? I think that it's been building, and all of a sudden we're going to wake up one day and there will be legitimate robots that we will own, and they will be in our homes and they will be in our workplaces, and they'll just be, and again, do you think robots will have rights?
Yeah.
We'll eventually create rights for robots and things like that. There's a show called The Humans. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but it's about robots. And if robots, had feelings, and there were these green-eyed robots and there was some other color-eyed robots. Some robots were like bad because they actually had independent thought and independent feelings and things like that. It's very, very interesting to watch the evolutionary effect take place, and eventually.
To be honest, I think the whole transhumanist and also the woke element that actually was clearing the way for robot rights, right? By eliminating pronouns and all that kind of stuff is, sort of opening people's mind to new ways of living and new forms of life and new forms of being. And I think it was sort of was one of the elements to open people's minds to robot rights. And I think that's coming.
So for Nick in 30 years, where do you think life will be for you, and what do you think you'll be doing in 30 years?
Hopefully, I'll still be alive after all this craziness. I think that will be a challenge. But hopefully, I'll be well off and doing stuff that I really love doing. Hopefully, I can also still retain meaning in life, right? Because that will also, I think, be a huge challenge going forward for many people as they lose their jobs and things get written in an eye blink that are of extremely high quality and created art, movies. I think, people have to. I think that will be a huge thing, like that people have to find meaning in their lives and stay centered.
Yep.
And the whole economy will completely, utterly change in
Right.
30 years. It will be unrecognizable. I think in 10 years or maybe
Huh.
even 5 years. But
So
yeah,
when Nick's not focused on Bitcoin, what does Nick do?
well, I'm focused a lot on Bitcoin. Too much. I could,
Bit,
I
bit,
could
bit, bit,
follow
Bitcoin,
Paul.
yeah, Bitcoiners like what? There's something beside Bitcoin? Like seriously? It's
Yeah,
like, what else is
if I talk to people, like 9 times out of 10, it will be about Bitcoin and crypto, and then they say, "Oh my God, there's more to life than Bitcoin and crypto."
there?
But I of course also work. I have brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces
Yeah,
and a cat, and so I
yeah.
spend and a girlfriend. I shouldn't forget my girlfriend. Um,
I hope
so
she's not watching this because she got mentioned last. She's gonna be like, "What's up with that?"
so I spent a lot of time with people in general, and exercising and reading and trying. Well, I try to read and write more and more. I'm doing, and I stopped drinking
Mhm.
again.
Again.
This is like my 4th week now. But it really helps with discipline and
Yeah, it
focus, and
does.
getting up
Yeah.
early and getting things done, and also with your emotions, right? Because in these times when things go up and down, you can get very emotional, and drinking doesn't really help a lot in making decisions. And not that I'm a heavy drinker, but I do notice that even if you drink a little, it does make a lot of difference. And if you don't do it, it
Mm.
really helps. So that, and yeah, and I would love to start drawing again,
Mm.
but that takes even more time, of course. So.
Mhm. It's awesome. Yeah, no, it's good. It's the thing that I think, again, being in Bitcoin, and I found that when I stepped away, that's what I found is that you get to focus on other things. I mean, the world, while we love Bitcoin and Bitcoin's amazing, of course it is. It's not the only thing. It's like, guys, we are and I don't know, and I guess that's just because. Yeah, I don't know why that is. That people that get into Bitcoin, it's like they're totally consumed by it. It's like there's nothing else. It's like, what else is there in Bitcoin?
Okay, well, now it's my turn because we're way over time already.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
let's start there because you actually got out of Bitcoin and crypto.
Yes.
So, what was the reason, and how is it?
Well, it's great for one. The reason, and just so that the watchers or listeners know, I still hold my Bitcoin. I'm never letting go of my Bitcoin, so you can forget about that nonsense. But I felt like uh, it Bitcoin got way too political for me, and
But you were
regardless.
about Bitcoin and politics.
That's right. I was doing a show on Bitcoin and politics, but that's when we could discuss it somewhat objectively. Um, I had tickets to go to Bitcoin Nashville, and I was really looking forward to it. The moment that that event got co-opted by a political party, I stopped. I said, "This is too much." Now, watching the very people that talk about Bitcoin and anarchists and all of this other stuff became government puppets in my eye. And all of a sudden, the
Not all
government
of them.
begins to, not all of them, but I tell you what, David Bailey, and if he's watching this, I hope he hears me loud and clear. He's the main guy, right?
Mhm.
When you look at what happened, he's the guy. He's the main guy. This whole thing. Now, some people will get, yeah, he's the guy. He's the main guy. That's why we have a Bitcoin Street Reserve. rather on the positive or the negative, they have given themselves over to a political party. Now, a political party controls Bitcoin almost to an extent. And that's the way that I feel. And that's the way I start to feel. And so I said, this is the point where I need to exit, because if I was there at that event, it wouldn't have been nice, because I wouldn't have a lot of nice things, and I wouldn't have been nice, and I would have probably turned into a very ugly person as a result. And so I felt myself going in that direction. I said, you know what? I think it's better that I exit and I get out of this, because if I stay, then it's going to look really, really bad, not only for me, but for a lot of folks that's around me. And so I was like, yeah, that's okay. I'm good. I can hold my Bitcoin. I can still be a Bitcoiner. I can still believe in and do whatever, but I don't have to be involved in the day-to-day echo chamber and listen to all the nonsense that's being spouted around. And I'm telling you, it's just pure. I had for a while, I stopped listening to all the Bitcoin podcasts, all the Bitcoin shows, everything, because all it was politics. It was 100% about the administration. It was 100% about the one person. And I was like, this is too much for me. I'm not interested. So I exited out.
You have to give Trump the credit that he knows how to turn it about himself, how to turn everything about himself.
Yeah,
he claimed it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I decided to exit out. And then what I found, like I said, is that once I stepped outside of the echo chamber, I was like, huh, interesting. So now the day-to-day movements of the price, all the news that goes around it, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't matter to me. I'm like, because I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, because I have a lot of people, of course, my phone blows up the moment Bitcoin tanks. Everybody calls me, Paul, what do you think? Is this top? Is it going to go down further? What do I do? And I tell them all. I was like, I was telling a friend this the other day. Me and him went for a walk. I was like, whatever you do, just keep accumulating, because there's going to be some people who would have never been able to get one Bitcoin. They probably have the ability to get one if the price continues to pull back. Don't miss this opportunity, because what's going to happen is they're going to wake up one day and Bitcoin's going to be 150 or it's going to be 200. And they're going to go, man, I wish I would have bought Bitcoin. I'm like, that's what I told you guys. So yeah, I still believe in Bitcoin.
Yeah, me too. And that's good advice that you give them. And when you look into the crypto community from the outside, like, what do you see?
From the outside looking in, again, that's sort of why I was saying what I said before. Bitcoin right now is in a weird place, because I think it's being co-opted by politics. And I think politics is really running it, because everybody is super, super excited about this strategic Bitcoin reserve. And it's all over Capitol Hill. And again, it's interesting. Other people in other countries are looking at the US, and that's all we're really talking about. So when I'm on the outside looking in, I keep trying to challenge Bitcoiners to sort of step outside of Bitcoin just for a little while, just like you talked about alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. Give Bitcoin a break for about a month. Don't talk about it. This is what I'm saying. Bitcoiners like lose their mind. Like, what? I can't put myself away from it. But when I'm on the outside looking in, because this is what you start to figure out. You start saying, put myself in the person who is a no corner shoes. Yeah. They look at us and they're like, what is these people talking about? Now, again, number goes up, helps the story. Yeah. But now number coming down, everybody's starting to scratch their head again. Like, what's going on? What's going on? And I think, again, what you mentioned before too, Bitcoin is more than number go up. It's about a full system that and it doesn't require trust of anyone. And where else can you have a system that is so secure, doesn't require trust from anyone, has been running for the last 16 years without fail, has never broken down once? It's amazing what it actually is. And it has a lot more value than just number goes up. Number goes up help, but yeah, a lot more value to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you talk to no coiners now?
Yeah, I do. I talk to a lot of people that are no corners, and I try not to be, banging them over the head like, hey, but I'm.
Do they accept you as an ex-Bitcoin? No, you're still Bitcoin, right? But ex-community Bitcoin.
They excommunicated. Yeah, no, they still definitely listen. I have my small group of folks that I still, believe it or not, I still do read the news and I do keep up on things and I do share things with people that are really close to me. So I have a group of guys on my phone that I text anytime something's really big going on with Bitcoin. Or again, there's pockets of people. There's these two brothers that I helped get into Bitcoin. And so now that I've sort of educated them, I keep telling them, I want you guys reading on your own, doing stuff. And they have, and they've picked it up and now they get it and they're doing their own investing with it and stuff like that. So I do still keep people up to speed. I just don't do it publicly. And this is another reason why I also got out. It's to reduce my attack vector, right? The
Yeah,
attack vector for me was too large because of all the Celsius and BlockFi and
yeah,
Voyager and all of that. All of my information is just spread. So
yeah,
I'm constantly getting spammed with, phishing emails, and I'm getting texts and I'm getting phone calls and all of this stuff because my information has been proliferated so much throughout the internet that it's, and again, I don't ever fear that someone's going to try and come attack me and do a $5 wrench attack on me. But the reality is that the more people that are well-known Bitcoiners put themselves out there, they do become a serious
yeah,
attack. So
yeah.
I want to shrink that attack vector and silence that stuff. So
And is the top in?
no, the top is not in for this run because I think that chart that you put up was one example, but the other reason that I don't believe the top is in is because of the bullish sentiment that I know exists. And I think the market's being artificially suppressed because you back in the day, if someone would have said something about like when we first got the
Yeah,
Bitcoin, when the CBOE listed Bitcoin, I mean, like it goes bananas,
yeah,
right? It like the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve should have made this thing go to 150 immediately, right? And
yeah,
here we are, we're down, and it's like something's not right. We know that the US government has a plan to buy 1 million Bitcoin.
yeah,
So if the government's going to buy 1 million,
yeah,
we know that Michael Saylor owns 500,000 Bitcoin, and he's already said he's going to buy $42 billion worth of Bitcoin.
yeah.
We know that there's two. Texas is getting ready to buy. There's 30 states already saying they're going to put Bitcoin as a reserve. It's too much bullishness out there for the price to be where it is. So
Well,
top's not in.
what, for example, Jim Rickards, I always like Jim Rickards, also his framework, right? Because you can just, change the words. Like when he says gold, you say Bitcoin, and, so you can basically use his whole framework and, translate it into Bitcoin and crypto terms,
Yeah.
which is what XRP Army always does because they use a lot of Jim Rickards, even though he never mentions XRP. But anyway, but one of the things that he says about gold is that there was agreement, and he talked like to really high level central bankers and people
Yeah.
connected to them to suppress the price of gold so that everybody could get on board and
Yep.
get sufficient enough amounts of gold in order for them to reset the system, and that that all the world powers had sufficient chips on the table, so to speak,
Hmm.
and not to destabilize the system too much. Well, you could argue that the same thing is happening right now with Bitcoin, that they artificially suppress the price, right? They are communicating, signaling like this is serious, guys, get on board. Like Larry Fink is cheerleading on every outlet he can find. He even mentioned that he wants to launch his own meme coin at some point, right? So basically they're signaling, okay, this shit is real, like it's coming, get on board now, we'll suppress the price for now so that you get that, the pension funds and and maybe also China and Russia, and that everybody can get enough chips, before they release and reset the system, right? Because you can
Hmm.
devalue against gold, but you can also devalue against Bitcoin, or both, right? You
Yeah.
you need to devalue against a real asset in order to reset the system. It's the only way to
Hmm.
get out of this stuff.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think that the powers that be that are trying to orchestrate Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, I think it is a smart way. I don't know if it will actually erase the debt. 36 trillion is a lot, and so there are some of them that thinks that it's going to go to 100 trillion or something like that. I forget the number, but it was some crazy process, And again, that's that hope that we have. But I mean, who knows? I don't know what's ultimately going to happen. All I can tell people is this: some is better than none. More is better than less. You gotta have some exposure. For you to have zero exposure makes no sense. And even if a person started stacking sats now, even at this level, if the price does pull back, like I said, I think some people still have the ability to get one Bitcoin if they really work at it over the next year or so. But after that, then I think that, okay, the cycle. The other reason that the top's not in yet is because Bitcoin will never go below the previous all-time high. So
Yeah.
Bitcoin, I think, is still flirting around this range, but I think once it does blow off top happen and it does come back down, it won't go below 60, right? That'll never happen again. And so people are getting the opportunity to get some cheap sats. They should do it right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, Bitcoin follows liquidity, and liquidity is coming back into the system. For the people who don't know Michael Howell by now, right? Where have you been?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's saying like the liquidity is still increasing, like in the entire 2025. So and Bitcoin follows with a delay, and
Yep.
so that I've no doubt about that the top is not in. And I do agree, like 250 is getting exciting. That is a high number, but who knows, right? I might get lucky. And what would you advise besides not being in Bitcoin and crypto for a month? What else for? Because I know you're, you try to inspire people and to,
Mhm.
change their perspective, to use
Mhm.
the next show.
Mhm.
What would you advise people to do with their daily lives, like besides getting out of crypto for a bit?
Yeah, so if folks are not focused on Bitcoin 24/7, 7 days a week, I believe it does free you up to go add value somewhere else. Now, depends on your position that you have. If you've been fortunate enough to have enough Bitcoin that you're not working a 9 to 5, then I think you need to find a place to create some value for someone. And I think you can always do that, whether you volunteer or rather you even go take a job, not because you need the job, but because you're trying to still develop skills and you're still trying to apply those skills somewhere to create value for other people. And also, if you have reached that status to where you don't need to work a 9 to 5, then go create value for someone else and help someone else out. And that's that charitable piece that comes in. But outside of that, I think it's also about self-improvement, right? And this is, I'm huge on this, but I ask everybody every day, how are you making your life better and how are you making other people around you's lives better? If you're doing something today that's going to cause people around you pain and suffering, you need to rethink it. And ultimately, you get to make that decision. You can't say, well, they made me do it. Well, that's not true. You have the choice to do what you want to do. So I always encourage people that if you're not focused on Bitcoin for the whole month and you're just taking a breather, someone like I did, then go focus on other things that can help someone else. Now, if you have to work a 9 to 5 and you're in Bitcoin and you've been focused on Bitcoin, then take that same energy and put that into your 9 to 5 and see if you can't advance yourself so that you can go stack some more sats, right? Because if you advance yourself and you wind up making more money, now you have some disposable income, put that disposable income in Bitcoin. It's going to benefit you versus just being focused on number go up and being focused on the charts. Now, again, if you're a trader, whole different ball game, right? That is your life. That is what you do. And I get it. But yeah, I for myself, I got sort of also at the same time I sort of made this decision, an opportunity popped up for me. And so I'm now running a nonprofit medical facility. And so because of that, that also helped me make that shift.
And did you experience any withdrawal symptoms?
Initially I did because what was going on is that it's muscle memory, right? I'm
Mm,
used to waking up in the morning, opening up this little aggregator that I had and looking at all the crypto news and then going to Publish Zero X and going to social media and X and going to LinkedIn and going. That was a muscle memory. And when I got off of it, I was like, the first thing I wanted to do was go on X. And it's like, wait, I don't even have an X account anymore. I got rid of it. So, I did sort of feel like I'm missing out. I'm missing something, but after a while, it was fine.
okay. And
Yeah.
the same question you asked me, like, how do you see like the next 10 to 30 years, like, with
Yeah.
AI, robotics,
Yeah.
Bitcoin,
Yeah.
even UAPs, if you have an opinion on that, like what does society look like in like 10 to 20 years?
Yeah, 10 to 20 years, 30 years. I do try to keep that long horizon view out there, sort of like they always say, think globally, act locally. I think in decades, but I try to act day to day to get myself there. Um, a couple things. So, financially, for the world, the globe, I do believe there's an event coming in the next 30 years that's going to drastically change this debt issue that we have globally. And we have a global debt issue, but that is, I believe, because the world is going to continue to become more aware of what Bitcoin is and how Bitcoin can help. And I think we're going to see a true changing to the Bitcoin standard. And that's going to be globally. I don't think that only
Will it,
America
oh,
does it. I
wait,
think
wait. Will it be a real Bitcoin standard, or what we talked about before?
no, I'm glad you asked that. Yes, I think that it will be a true Bitcoin standard where it's a store value, it's a medium of exchange, and it's a unit of account. And that's in 30 years. I think that that can happen in 30 years. Um, but and I'm glad you brought that up too, because one of the things that I sort of hammer on is I've noticed that Pump will say like certain organizations are buying Bitcoin. Not true. If you look close enough, like the Sovereign Wealth Fund, they didn't buy
Mhm.
Bitcoin. They bought IBIT. And some of
Yeah.
the states in the US have bought IBIT. And they say they bought Bitcoin. You didn't buy Bitcoin, you bought paper Bitcoin. So I believe though that some of them will, like Texas. I don't think Texas is going to buy IBIT. I think Texas is going to actually buy and hold Bitcoin, which is different.
And
But
mining.
so yeah, and of course the mining capital of the world. So yeah, so I think financially there, I think geopolitically, I think that there very well could come a reshuffling of the deck as far as who the global world leader is. It's not necessarily going to be like Ray Dalio says, like another country actually becomes the globe. I think it's going to be a mix of like countries that are sort of at the lead. It's not going to be one, but like a group of them that sort of is. And I guess maybe some people will say, "But Paul, you still got to one is still going to be in the lead." But I don't know. I think something's going to shift on how we look at the order of global power,
Yeah, I
if
think
that
it will
makes sense.
not be a G7 or a G12 or whatever, but I think it will
Yeah.
be a B7 or a B12.
Ah,
Bitcoin with
yes, yes,
El
that would be
Salvador included
awesome,
and
right?
Bhutan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it does get worse before it gets better because
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes. Unfortunately, we're in such a hole. It's got to get worse before it can get better.
Can I ask you, because you said
Yeah.
we will get on a real Bitcoin standard? So, like,
Yes.
how do you see us getting there? Because at the moment, there's no incentive to go there, right? I mean, there's an incentive to profit from it, and to
Hmm.
build CBDCs on top of it.
Hmm.
But how do you see us from getting where we are now to your Bitcoin standard?
It's sort of like what El Salvador is doing, and El Salvador is actually a great experiment for the world. We're watching the IMF telling them not to buy any more Bitcoin. Uh, and they still bought more Bitcoin after they told them not to buy any more Bitcoin. So I think that eventually you're going to get a world leader like a Nayib Bukele, but it's going to be a much larger country that's going to get it and also try to create that. And so rather it becomes from a very conservative state in the US, and maybe this administration or maybe two administrations away from this one, that someone actually says, no, we need to actually make Bitcoin legal tender right alongside the dollar. And then all of a sudden, we begin to look at it differently. I think no taxation on Bitcoin is going to be the first piece that's going to come into play once that's established. And then it's established that, oh, we can use it as a medium of exchange. Now, the medium of exchange part is a little tricky because I don't really think that we will ultimately use Bitcoin to go buy milk or coffee or
Mhm.
cars or whatever. I think that there will be some other method to do that with. But like Michael Saylor said, it's digital Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
Manhattan cyberspace. You're never going to sell it, but you're going to leverage it and you're going to be able to do other things as a result of having it. And so I think that's where the Bitcoin standard comes in. So while we might not necessarily use Bitcoin to buy goods and services, I think we are going to use it and leverage it to do those other things. And that's where I think the Bitcoin standard is going to come in. At least I
And do
think.
you think AI will use Bitcoin and crypto?
Yes, I do. I don't necessarily think it'll be Bitcoin initially. I think it's going to be some variation of it. But yes, I definitely think that, because I always tell people the same thing, right? If my car had a Bitcoin wallet on it and I'm driving on a road, it knows what road I'm on. It could automatically deduct certain Satoshis because I've used that road and give it to the road for people call it taxes, but for the fact that you used it, and it goes to the repairs and the maintenance and the upkeep of just that road, and it can be accounted for, and it can be audited, and you can always look at it. It's just, it makes so much sense to do something like that, right? So I think that machines, and then once we get the RoboCab service that Elon's going to put out there, the cars will pay each other to do things like to switch lanes or to go faster or to go, things like that. I think the machines need the ability to pay for themselves, and so that's how it's going to happen.
And do you worry about robots and AI?
Do I worry about what?
Robots and AI, sort of the development. Like,
No, I don't. I think we're going to leverage those things again. I think people look at the future from a fearful perspective, like the question I asked you about aliens. Like, if aliens did come here, why do we always think that they come here to kill us? Like, they don't come here to kill us. Do what?
They would have already if they were here to kill us. Like,
correct. Yeah. If we think that robots are going to take us out, I don't know where that fear comes from and why we always think the worst of things, but maybe the robots are really going to help us really do life better and benefit from it. But I think Hollywood has jilted us to the point to where we think that someone's out to get us at every turn we go. So, but yeah, I think it's gonna. I have a very hopeful look at the future, the next 30 years, when it comes to technology and AI and robots.
And do you think AI will align with decentralization or with centralization?
Initially, I think it will be centralized because the companies that are involved and things like that. But my hope is over time, we will make that shift to decentralized systems for robots, AI, all of that's all decentralized versus it being controlled by one entity. I would love to see a ChatGPT, Perplexity, all that stuff be on Bitcoin's blockchain some kind of way, and Bitcoin actually controlling, or the companies themselves take their hands off of these systems and let these systems, run without the company. Like if the company didn't exist, the system still would run. But I don't know how that all looks.
Yeah.
Be fun.
Yeah, I think that those are all my questions.
Awesome.
I had a really good time talking to you again and seeing you.
Yes.
And
yes.
yeah, we miss you, of course, with Bitcoin Live, and we've done some great shows. Like I love Bitcoin and politics, and I can totally also understand that you had to let go
Yes.
and do your own thing and move on. And
well, I'll make the announcement on here now. I will come back, but it won't be until this administration is gone. And when it's gone, then I'll come back and I can have a show where I can at least have some sense of decency when I have my show, because right now I can't do that.
Yeah, but then you have like Trump Jr., next for it.
Well, then, yeah, let me put another caveat on that. I will come back if none of the people involved in this administration is in politics, and then therefore I'll be able.
Wow,
to,
not in politics, like
that's right, not
all out of politics, like
all out of politics. They're all gone because it's just nothing but it's just drama, right? And I don't want to be mixed up with the drama, so. But I do have one last question for you though. So can you paint a little bit of a picture for us as to what the future, the sort of short-term future for Bitcoin Live looks like going forward? Are there any things that's coming up that people should know or to be aware of so that they're, be informed?
Well, we talked a little bit about it before going live. Like, each year we try to mix it up a little bit. Like 2 years ago, we started doing decentralized broadcasting, as we called it. Like, that's when you got on and you got your own show, and Pigeon and John and of course Douglas and later on also Matthew and Gerald. But then the year afterwards, which was last year, we switched it up again, and then we got partnership or collaboration with our friends at the Organized Media, and they're running basically from Monday till Friday their own show uh, in collaboration with us, which is called the Organized Media, of course, about for the Stacks community. So that's was a lot of fun and was very good. And yeah, this year we're also, gonna mix things up again. Try some new things. I'm not gonna. I'm still working out sort of the details, but we're gonna shift strategies a little bit here and there and try some new things.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm still working on the details and also getting it into my rhythm.
Yep.
Because you have to change your rhythm and getting all that stuff together. So that's what I'm working on. So people can expect different things coming soon, and hopefully that will improve Bitcoin Live and our partnerships with others. So yeah.
Awesome. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Well, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like I said, at some point, if I can get some time cleared up or whatever, I might entertain doing something again. I just got to figure it out. The new angle that I'm focused on right now, of course, I was sort of focused on it before, is health, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to encourage people to look at their health from a measured perspective. So again, I always challenge people. I ask the people, "Hey, what's your vitamin D level?" Most people have no clue. And it's sad because to get a vitamin D test is like incredibly dirt cheap. Um, and it's important for you to know what your body is doing. I'm in very interested in all the health tech. I mean, I have an Aura
Mhm.
ring on. I use that for my sleep. Company stopped by the company I'm at now, and they're from Abbott. They have a device called Lingo. It's a constant glucose monitor. So I tried it out. So I've been able to watch what spikes my blood sugar and things like that. Get all my blood test work done, know where my body is on all aspects, doing red light therapy, pulse bed. There's a lot of things that people could do to really improve their health, and that's some of the things that I might try and push out there
So
and encourage
so
Bitcoiners.
about health, like what are some of the health issues that you see on the rise?
Mhm.
And what might be some health issues that people probably have no idea about that they should maybe focus on?
Yeah, no, the ones that I see on the rise are the same ones that we've always been faced with, but I think we've normalized it to the point to where people just sort of expect it. I mean, whether that's congestive heart failure, or whether that's diabetes, or whether that's, cancer, or, all of the dementia, right? There are a lot of these diseases that we see and that people are having, but it's just again because people are not encouraged enough to really take their health seriously enough. And again, we have the ability to do it, and it's not that expensive to get yourself checked up. Go get yourself screened so that you can catch things early, or that you can all become aware of something that might be that you don't even know. Because by the time you feel pain or see a sign, it's too late. It's already taken hold, and you've already got a serious problem at that point. We need to get people to look at their health from a different perspective. Again, if any listeners listening and you haven't been to a doctor to do a physical, you should go see one. I don't care which one. Go pick them. It's not that expensive, guys. Your health is really important. And so even if you have, let's just for craps and giggles, let's just say you did Function Health. That's one of the companies that are out there. I did that last year. $4.99. Okay, some people probably look $4.99. Yeah, $4.99 breaks down to what? $50 a month. Okay, go do that. They'll send you to the lab. They'll draw over like, I don't know, 10 vials of blood, right? They give you over 100 biomarkers, and you can see what that is and just see where your body is. Just do that for 1 year. You don't have to keep it for every year. Just do it 1 year. They will draw your blood twice, and they will give you a full panel of your entire body. Why would you not do that for $4.99?
Don't trust, verify.
That's right. Exactly. Don't trust, verify. And if you know, now here's the other part. If you know you've got something you're dealing with, then work on it. And come
Yeah.
on. If you know that your cholesterol is high, try and do something about it. If you know you're not sleeping well, try and do something by getting to bed earlier. Turn off the blue light, right? Get away from the
Yeah.
screens. These things, it's so much you can do. So that's gonna be probably my new push in the Bitcoin world if I come back. It most likely would be to encourage Bitcoiners to be healthy people.
Yeah, and I guess mental health, right? Mental health
Yes.
is probably a big issue, also outside of crypto, but I can imagine also within crypto, right? So, what would you be advising people like yourself, when you were when you were in crypto, and
Mhm.
people who are in crypto, like what are the biggest pitfalls, and like what should you be watching out for? Like what are warning signs, or stuff that you shouldn't do or should do?
Yeah, again, to make it simple, I mean, again, these devices, right? Can we put them down? Can I take this and put this somewhere and not touch it for, half the day? It terrifies
Never
most of us, right?
day. Oh my god.
It terrifies most of us. But no, I think the signs you need to be on the lookout for. Let me take one step back. So the first thing is just asking yourself and being honest with yourself. Am I healthy? And am I well, actually, is a term I'm using, because well is a composition of mind, body, and spirit. So if you're not well, and you need to ask yourself that and challenge yourself. How do you know you're well, right? If I ask the average person, how do you know if you're well? One, are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you exercising? And do you have less stress? Those are the four main components: eat, sleep, movement. Well, yeah, no, yeah, eat, sleep, movement, and stress. If you are good in those areas, you will never need medication or supplementation, because you really are well. And so I want to encourage people to be well. The way you know you're not well is if you have really bad relationships. That's the first place I start. If you're struggling with money, that's another place I look at. If you don't have really good skills and you can't get a really good job, and this goes back into the bigger world global financial problem, people just don't have skills. People want to get paid more money, but they don't want to work on themselves to get better skills to get more money. That's where it's got to start. And anybody have the ability to create a skill. Today, AI will do it all for you almost. So go get the skills, go make them more money, have good friends, have good relationships, and then that's where we need to focus. And if we're struggling with those things, then go get checked up, find out where the problem is, and work on it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes people really depressed is if they don't do anything, right? If they're not
Yes.
productive, and if you find your angle, or your passion, that will really increase your health also, because you're doing something. That's one,
Hmm.
and but you're also doing something that you really love doing, so that
Hmm.
helps even more, right? But yeah, if you're not doing anything with your lives and just expecting others to do stuff for you, yeah, that makes you really depressed, right? Even
Yeah,
if it sounds really nice that you can just lay around and do nothing and watch television all day, but trust me, that will get you totally depressed.
exactly. Totally depressed. And then depression is one of those things that a lot of people do struggle with in our world. And if a person is struggling with depression, some level, please go find somebody to talk to about it. Just complaining, saying I'm depressed. Okay, we get that. Okay, you're depressed. What are you going to do about it? Instead of just sit there and say, I'm depressed. I'm depressed. Okay, you're depressed. I get it. Go talk to someone.
Yeah. Yeah, and the final question for you then.
Yep.
I'm in UAPs and aliens and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Like, what is your opinion on all of that? We sometimes talk about it, of course, on
Yeah.
Telegram. But
Well,
what
yeah.
is your opinion?
I think there's definitely something there, right? It's not like there's nothing there. All these people and all these stories don't just materialize. There's something there. Um, I don't know why now is the time where all this starting to come to light, why people are starting to talk about it more openly and more honestly about what's been going on. But I am excited to, or let me put it this way. I would be excited to actually see one of these UFOs myself, or some alien life form myself, because everybody that talks about it is some little blip on the screen or some little blur over here. It's like, can someone please, we got enough camera technology, get us a good picture, please.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. People like Avi Loeb, he's like from the Galileo project. He's like I think a Harvard scientist.
Yeah,
He's actually trying to get like real solid evidence
good.
from crash material at the bottom of the sea, because that's the most logical place that they are to be found. And actually, there's
Good.
one in the Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea, what is it? Baltic Sea anomaly. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
It's actually disc shaped, and I actually thought, like, maybe they should reach out to Avi Loeb, and because they're trying to get finance to sort of research it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's evidence everywhere. But yeah, finding one, to get into contact with one, that's a different question, right? And to see one
Yeah,
for yourself.
I
I
want to.
haven't seen one.
Yeah, it's just like Bigfoot again, and I know we've had this conversation about Bigfoot. Here's the thing that I say about Bigfoot, guys. We've got camera technology. Put enough cameras out there. You mean tell me nobody can get a picture? Come on,
Well, there is
get.
actually the Patterson video. That's is legit. It's actually a legit a video of Bigfoot, but they
Oh.
are highly elusive. Yeah, we
I
we
get there.
haven't done a Bigfoot episode either, right? If shit
Yeah,
is
okay.
missing, like we have some episodes to catch up.
You need to do a full bit. You need to do a full Stranger Things episode where you talk about the aliens, you talk about the Bigfoot, you talk about all this stuff. That would be a cool episode. I would definitely watch that. Stranger Things. I think you need to do a
Yeah,
Stranger
maybe that's a
Things.
good title to catch the attention. Yeah. We there's
Yeah.
actually I'm not sure if you know about it, but Skinwalker Ranch is going into season 4, and they
No,
run a whole operation on the ranch, Skinwalker Ranch,
really.
and they're capturing all kinds of weird stuff and
Okay.
anomalies, and they're all recorded and scientifically explored. And we still haven't done a show on that because you can do multiple shows, and I find it highly ironic that America, sort of that they are sort of revealing the reality of this phenomenon through a reality television show. Like it's like, how American can you have it? Like
That's
so I find
right.
that highly ironic. But yeah, it's very popular, and it's very it's worth watching.
Yeah, seriously, you should do a Stranger Things series on Bitcoin Live where you talk about the stranger things that's happening in the world. I think that would be fascinating. Okay, I might have to put my heads together with you. That would be fun to do.
Yeah, we can do a show together. You can come
That's
on and
right. That's right. We'll talk about Stranger Things.
keep us grounded.
I'll try.
Okay, Paul, I want to thank
Okay.
you. I had a lot of fun. I think we
Yeah, me
explored
too.
many avenues, and I think I don't have anything more to add to it.
Awesome. Neither do I, man. Thanks a lot for having me on again. And all the folks that I've missed. One day I'll come back and hopefully I get catch up with everybody. I miss everybody. So
That's good. Can't wait for that moment. And till
indeed.
then, have fun and stay healthy.
Okay, I will.